Welcome back from lunch, everyone, and welcome to our general session that's from 12:15 to 1:15 today, Resources, Credentials, and DAISI Oh My. We're so glad that you're back and joining us for this general session. It's jam-packed with a lot of great information, and we're just going to jump right in. So I'm going to hand it off to Dee Reinhardt from Illinois Worknet. Thank you so much for being here to share some wonderful opportunities available to everyone through Worknet.
Well, thank you for asking me. I'm always excited to speak about Employment 101. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dee Reinhardt. I am a contractor with Illinois Worknet, and I helped build from scratch the new version of Employment 101. So we've been using this now about 3 years, and I kind of left myself in PowerPoint because I wanted to be able to move pretty rapidly. So I'm just going to kind of keep going down. So we've got a lot of tools for workforce and education partners. And some of these things are available just by you being named as a partner. So we've got Employment 101. We've got some other tools, other assessments that are available to you. We've got a virtual job fair out there. We've got an events calendar. So there's just all sorts of stuff. And if you click on the partner icon that's in the upper right-hand corner when you log on to Illinois Worknet, it will take you to a page and you'll see this menu and you can find the different tools that you need. You'll probably want to go to the assessments and maybe the customer support center as you are going through this. We have all sorts of free assessments, and Employment 101 is one of those tools that is there for you to use with adult learners or with youth. It's especially useful for middle schoolers and high schoolers that are trying to figure out what they want to do with life, but it's also good for adult learners who are transitioning out of maybe a time period where they haven't been working to get back into the workforce. Employment 101 is a step-by-step approach. People can take a pre-assessment, which gauges where they are in their skill level. There's 25 questions. Then they can do the 8 modules in the guide itself, and it gives you a progress bar of how far along you are. And then you can take a post-assessment. Now, the beauty of this is the questions are the exact same on the pre-assessment as they are on the post-assessment. And inside of the modules, there are quizzes that ask you the questions that are on the post-assessment. So that explains what the correct answer is, where you can find it, and why it's the correct answer. So we've got these career tools that are also associated with Employment 101. We have the compare training spot. We have compare careers, where during Employment 101, they pick a training program that they want to do, and they pick a career that they like to do. And then we also have a job search organizer that's there. We also have a phenomenal resume builder that is available to anybody just by having an Illinois Worknet account. And then in the customer's dashboard, now you're looking at my dashboard, but it tells you all of the information that you need about your Employment 101 and your other resources. And it shows you, here's a picture of my jobs tool that is going to compare my jobs that I've selected. We've got these are the programs that have been selected and any notes that I've made. So this is inside all of those career tools. And this is the job planning tool. This is a Kaizen board that you can move a job from one column to the other so that you can move through the process. And then inside of Employment 101 is an essential employability skills self-evaluation. We have an observational evaluation that's available, a worksite evaluation, and then the results will show you what the person taking all of those assessments yields. Inside of the tools, if you are a partner, you can access the customer support center where you can find your customers' records. And if your customer is trying to use this, they would log in and access this Employment 101 icon. Or if they want to look at the other career plan tools, they can access that. Now, we need to talk a little bit about groups. To be able to view the customers that you have in the system, you need to create a personal group. So some of you may be involved in other grant-funded programs where maybe your school is associated with DHS Youth or with an apprenticeship program or some CJA or some of the other projects that we manage. But you'll want to create a personal group. And once you have that personal group, you can invite your customers that you want to track to that group. If you invite other partners to your group, so like maybe there's a number of people in your regional office of education association group of schools, you might invite those other partners from your association to your group, because then that way they can see your customers. If you get invited to their group, you can see their customers. So if somebody is a supervisor level, you might want to be a partner in all of those other people's groups down the line. When you're looking at the personal group, you'll see your customers in here, and you can also look at the assessments on that customer's profile. When you're looking at those assessments, it will have a screen where you can pick Employment 101, and then you can also see the different options along the line in those career plans for those customers. As far as the assessments go, you can see the skills and interest survey. This goes out to CIS, and I know that stands for something, but at this moment I'm trying to rush through this so I can get all this information out to you, and the name has escaped me. Employment 101 is right here. The self-evaluation is the essential employability skills, and here's the other. If your participants, students, whoever you're working with also wants to take a TABE test, you can add TABE results here as well, so that you can track all of that information for your participants. Now, also, we've got some guides, and I just want to flip through these really quickly, because once the person is in the system, you can use all of these guides. So we've got an Explore Careers guides, we've got Training and Credentials guides, and in here there's different pages that will have various articles for you to use and review. We have Prepare for College guides. So if somebody needs to go to college and isn't sure which one to pick, you've got a guide here. We've got our Prepare to Find a Job guide, our Job Skills guide, the Digital Literacy guides, Resume Writing guide, Starting a Business guide. Maybe we've got some entrepreneurs in the group. Volunteer guide, Social Media guide for individuals. This gives you tips on how to use social media to find a job. A Quick Start guide gets everybody started. And then Money Management, Disability Employment guide, and a Youth guide. And if you need more information, you can contact info@illinoisworknet.com. If you need to become a partner to use the Employment 101, I'm going to go back up here to where the groups tab was. You need to be given partner rights to have a personal group as a partner in the system. So if you are going to submit a request for maybe your entire region, make sure that each of your participants, or not your participants, each of your teachers that want to be a partner have an Illinois Worknet account that they've created. And then you can submit an entire list of those partners that you would like to have access to a public viewer account. That's what we call it, is a public viewer account for for the ability to create those personal groups so that they can invite their customers. Now, I also I gave Tara this presentation, and on here we've got a link to an article about how to invite customers to your group. So you'll want to take a look at that. It is relatively self-explanatory in the group itself when you get into the group. And I've got a couple minutes left, right? Don't I, Tara? I can go live here real quickly. So I'm going to go to Illinois
Yes,
Worknet.
absolutely. And I'm going to post that information that we put together.
Oh, great.
Sent me those wonderful resources. I'm grabbing that right now. So yes, thank you.
Great. So if I'm going to go to my personal group here, and I am live in the system right now. So if I go to my personal group for D. Reinhardt, oh, got to log in. You can invite customers, and it gives you all the details here. You can do a customer invitation by just sending them an email. So if I wanted to invite Tara or Angela to my personal group, I would just put their email address in here and then invite the customer. They get an email to whatever email address you entered. So make sure it's the right email address. And or you can do a group invitation and you create a passcode and a title. And those passcodes can change from day to day. So you can invite multiple groups. Maybe you've got different cohorts that you're going to put through this. All they have to do is you just have to put the passcode there, put a title in, and then create the invitation. And then what will happen is you'll get a sheet of like 10. It fits on a regular business card size sheet of paper. And if you've got business cards, you can break them apart. Otherwise, you could cut them in. And there's 10 of them. And you can invite the people to the group. They can write their username and their password on that piece of paper so that they can tuck that in their wallet. So there's all kinds of really simple, useful tools. But the most important part is that if you want another partner to see your customers, you need to invite them once they are already granted partner access. So as I said earlier, send an entire list to the info@illinoisworknet.com and say you attended the Transitions Conference and that you would like to grant partner access to this list of users with the name and the email address so that I can look them up. I'll give them public viewer access, and then they can start inviting customers to the group. Do I have any questions in the chat? Let's take a look real quick. All right, so Tara put some stuff in there. Are team members at Illinois Worknet willing to provide training on using the platform? Can you clarify that question, Chantal? Do you mean using Employment 101? Yes. Okay, so one of the beauties of this tool is on Illinois Worknet, if I go live to the system, I'm going to log in here real quick again. And if I go to this partners up there in the right-hand corner, and I click on the menu on here on the assessments, if I go to Employment 101, I have an entire teacher's guide, screen by screen, page by page, of what you need to do to use Employment 101 in a classroom setting. It's a 104-page presentation. I felt like I birthed a baby elephant when I got that done. So it is, all of this stuff is all right here. Let me put this link in the chat. And that way It's there for you. So if you want to take a look. All right, let me see. Is there Tara put the information in there about that. Any other questions that I can answer for anybody? I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for listening. I hope I gave you some good information that you'll be able to use. And I was told that there is actually a credential in the DAISI system. Help me out here.
DAISI, yes. And
Yes.
information's also all explained in that that I linked. So thank you so much, Dee, for coming and for sharing these wonderful opportunities.
You're welcome.
All right, as Tara said, thank you, Dee. The next piece of this is Kathy Olesen-Tracey and myself. Honestly, it's mostly Kathy, let's be honest. And so I'm gonna get everything into screen share mode. All right, Kathy, here you go. You're muted though, Kathy. There you go.
There we go. So I just wanted to take a minute to acknowledge that we're probably all pretty overwhelmed these days. I don't know if anybody saw this movie. It was a movie, Oscar winner a couple of years ago. Everything, everywhere, all at once. And I think that's really indicative of where we are right now. All of us are feeling that we have to be everywhere. We have to do everything all the time, all at once, serve our students. So I wanted to pause and provide some clarity for just a minute here, and really kind of focus on why are we here? You know, what is our mission? And always thinking about that as our North Star. And then how do we do this? How do we do this job? So Angela, do you want to kick that poll off?
Actually, that's going to be Brittany, I believe.
Okay, Brittany, do you want to kick that
But
poll
either way,
off, please?
Yes, I will. 1 second here.
And by the way, if you saw that movie and you liked it, just, you know, give me a thumbs up on that movie, because I feel like we're living that every day, all the time. So I want to get an understanding of what level setting some of our expectations. So the questions that you're going to be looking at here, do bridge programs, are they required to lead to a credential? All ICAPS, is that true or false, must lead to a credential. So you are required to offer multiples of everything. And every adult learner must enroll in either a bridge or an ICAPS. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to take this and kind of level set and see where we are. And Anne said that movie is crazy but great. Yeah, because I feel like that is indicative of where we are right now, right? Everything is coming at us all at once. So I'm going to give you a couple more minutes to oh, good. I picked a good movie. So maybe that's the level set that I get from today, is I picked a good movie reference. So, Brittany, when we have a number of people voting, we can go ahead and show the results. Okay, we've got the results. Let's go over those real quick together. A bridge program must lead to a certificate or a credential. Is that true or false? That is false. A bridge program does not have to lead to a credential or a certificate. What the confusion could be is that we are allowed to count a credential or a certificate if a student is in a workplace, work-based learning environment. And according to OCTAE, that is defined by bridge and ICAPS type of environment. So a student must be in a bridge or an ICAPS for us to count a credential that they earn. But the bridge program does not need to have a credential, okay? Thinking about that bridge is it's taking you from that adult education program and it's bridging you to your career. It's bridging you to post-secondary education. It's bridging you to training. Sometimes they can have a credential or certificate involved, and that's fine, but it is not required. Now, the flip on the question number 2, an ICAPS must lead to a credential or a certificate, and that is true. The purpose of an ICAPS, that integrated career and academic preparedness, the purpose is to help a student fast track the ability to get their basic education and the skills necessary for sustainable employment. And those skills are documented through a credential. Okay. Ooh, we got some good questions here on this one, some good split. Question 3. Programs are required to offer multiple bridge programs and multiple ICAPS programs. That is false. What we want is for our students that you are serving to have a pathway into sustainable employment so that they can put a roof over their head. They can put food on their table. They can buy a winter coat for their children. You know, we know that moving into training allows that sustainable employment, and that's what we're here for. So you do not have to offer multiple of them, but you do have to have a robust system. A robust system does not mean you have multiple bridges and multiple ICAPS. It means the system that you have is serving the students that are engaged in your program. That can be a single ICAPS, that can be multiple ICAPS. You get to make that determination. And the question 4, adult learners must enroll in either a bridge or an ICAPS. That is false. Adult learners are not required to join those. We are required to offer them. That is a part of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunities Act, that we provide these services to our students, that they are robust and meaningful. But we don't necessarily make every student get into a bridge or an ICAPS program. We're here to serve students. Based on the law, we are required to have bridge and ICAPS for our students, and then we serve our students the best way possible. Okay. There's a question in the chat: how can we support students that do not want to pursue a CTE program through a traditional ICAPS? Well, then that becomes, what is their goal? Is their goal to become employed? We just looked at the Employment 101 resources and tools, so we can help them find a job that they may want to get into. Maybe their goal is to get their high school equivalency or to build their English learning. We can do that. I mean, I hear what I'm saying, and I hear what this sounds like, because what you guys hear from me in some capacity is you have to have a bridge, you have to have an ICAPS. And now it seems like I'm contradicting that, and I'm not. What I'm saying is that we serve our students with the best mechanism that is meaningful for that student. And to do so, and to be in compliance with the law, one of our strategies is through a robust bridge and ICAPS programming. Other mechanisms could be through your high school equivalency program. Other mechanisms could be through your English language acquisition program, or your incumbent worker training, or any of the other hundreds of things that we are doing to impact the lives of our students. Okay. Next question.
Do you mean next slide?
That would be great. Next slide is even better. Okay. And I can't emphasize this enough. We are designing programs that meet our students' needs. Okay. That's what we're here for. Now, we have to be in compliant with the law, which means to meet our student needs, we also have to demonstrate they're progressing academically, making improvement, building on those foundational skills, building on that English language acquisition process, building their understanding of work in this country or improved work experiences. We're building all of our programs to meet their needs and then to help move them into the next step of their journey. Next slide. Okay, so thinking about what bridge programming really is, and I know that a lot of you have heard this, but I just really wanted to kind of level set for a minute. Bridge programming is gapping the difference between the individual, is building the bridge between what the individual student academically has, foundational skills, English language skills, to that next step. Right? We can do bridge programming in work-based learning. We can do bridge programming. We can bridge students to citizenship. we can bridge, but we can't teach citizenship, and we'll talk about that in a minute. We can bridge students to college. We can bridge them to an ICAPS. But the idea about a bridge program is it has to take you somewhere. You know, we've talked about bridges to nowhere. Really what we're trying to do is show you the connectivity between that next step for a student and how are they going to get there. Well, they're going to get there because we've created a pathway, a bridge from where they exist currently to where that student wants to go. And our bridge program will do that. Next slide. So the ICAPS is a big part of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunities Act. And we pointed out the section in the law that tells us what we have to do. I will tell you with the reauthorization of WIOA, which is happening, they're going to double down on ICAPS because we're seeing the actual investment students are making. They're able to get sustainable employment. They're able to get jobs where they can actually put a roof over their heads, all the things that we need them to be able to do. And we know the value of this. So this is a service approach. This one is going to require that industry recognized credential for that student to complete. And that's what we're here for in that avenue. Okay, I'm going to pause. Before I go into this, type in the chat your questions, your concerns, your thoughts, anything that you're worried about, clarifying questions of what we just shared.
While we're waiting for some of them, let me add, Kathy, one reason why you and I, you are doing this is because we know there's been a lot of questions around what counts as a credential. What about bridges? Are they required to be in bridges? Are they not? You do not have to have a credential in bridge. Can you have a credential in bridge? Do I have to have all my students in a bridge? Do I have to have all my students in an ICAPS? And so that's where, instead of trying to put this out in like a Q&A session or put this out on an FAQ somewhere or send a massive email, that's why we wanted to do this as like a micro portion of this one session and give you the opportunity to explain, this is what it really is, this is what it looks like. So Kathy, the question in chat is, how will the new digital equity initiative affect ICAPS?
Well, I think, and that's a great question. I think what you're going to start seeing is more foundational bridge programming to build those technology skills. Like, what are the technology skills that you need to have to work in manufacturing? What are the technology skills that you need to have to work in food service? Believe it or not, that is becoming a huge technology dependent field. What is the technology skill set you need to work into healthcare? Again, a very significant lift on that. So as we're looking at that Digital Equity Act, what we would expect is to possibly see even more bridges to help build those technology skills. So, you know, a bridge to healthcare, and then they learn the technology skills, and then the ICAPS is a healthcare related bridge where they earn their credential because now they've built those technology skills that they need to have those. So that's kind of one of the thought processes with where we'll see the digital skill development. What other questions can I answer for you?
This one says, oh wait, it's longer. Nope, there was two that popped in. So I had another program director reach out to me earlier needing some clarification on grade level requirements for bridge versus ICAPS. I know how I understand it, but can you advise on this? Do you want me to answer that?
Go ahead.
So we don't have hard and fast policy on requirements for what levels students must be at for a bridge or an ICAPS. But what we have are general guidelines, and typically we say NRS 3 and 4 on bridges. No. NRS 3 and 4 for ESL and high school diploma students are typically bridges, and then your NRS 5s and 6s for ESL and HSE are typically your ICAPS. Now, you may have a 3 or 4 that is in class every day. They are motivated. They're going to be there. They're showing up. They're doing the work, and you're ready to put them in an ICAPS. Plug them in. But you may also have a level 6 student who sleeps through class on the days he bothers to show up. Do not put him in an ICAPS because he's at that level. So there's some general guidelines with that, but we're also exploring bridges to Kathy's point about the digital equity pieces. If some of those bridges need to dip into the twos, then they dip into the twos and you pull some of those students with you. But we don't have specific, like I said, hard and fast policy written statements that you must be this level or you must be this level to do either bridges or ICAPS. Hopefully, Audrey, that aligns with what you were thinking. Hopefully that aligns with what you shared in the program. If you have questions or the other program that you were talking to has questions, feel free to reach out to me. We can talk through that, work through that. What does it look like? What does it mean? So the other question that came in, Kathy, we have internal debates about what bridges and ICAPS/bridge programming is relevant for our students versus industries that are recognized as in demand across the state, the red and green list. In the end, we thought that going from programming that fit the professions we recognize in our students made the most sense.
I don't see a question in there. I see an acknowledgement of how you're designing your programs. And I recognize and acknowledge that that's often the where we start is where the students' needs need to be met. Also be thoughtful of the students may want this particular credential, but does it get them an opportunity to have sustainable employment? And I know that before anybody starts yelling, I know very much that our students are more than simply workers, right? We are educating the whole individual and the whole family. I understand the impact. So as long as you're looking at what that impact looks like for your students and they can move into a sustainable job where they can actually, earn a living, then you're doing a great job of serving your students.
So the next question is it wise to have instructor recommendations for student recommendations for ICAPS programming? For example, what if there's a conflict of a student wanting to enter, begin, but an instructor doesn't recommend? How would you advise?
I would advise your instructor recommendation be a part of your process to determine eligibility for these programs, but not the only part of it. Sometimes we have unintentional biases that we bring forward. Sometimes we have just a lot of complexity in how we individually make decisions. So it could be a part of it, and it should be a part of it. Your teachers know your students and bring their voice to the table. Absolutely important to do, but it should not be the only factor that determines whether a student is eligible for how you submit your ICAPS programming. That should be one part of a few other pieces. And it sounds like you're thinking that, these spots are limited as our resources are limited to make the best call for everybody involved. So absolutely bring them to the table, but not the only decision point. Okay, there's another question in here. And I'm going to transition that to the next slide. There's a question about how you mark things in DAISI and all of that to receive credit. So we will absolutely cover that. So let's go to our next slide. Okay, so I don't really want to get everybody wrapped up in the vocabulary, but I do think it's important, to Angela's point earlier, we get a lot of questions about certificate versus credential versus this versus that. And what we're looking at are two very distinct documents. What you see on the screen is our administrative rules, the Illinois Community College Board's administrative rules. And that is how we define certificates. Okay. And administrative rules are really important. They go up in front of our legislation. Our legislators say, yes, we're in agreement with everything you're saying. And that's really how the system operates. So when you're talking about the community college system, how we define a certificate is a satisfactory completion of a series of courses or curriculum. Okay. Again, that's how we internally talk about certificates. A non-credit award for satisfactory completion of a series of courses of 30 semester credits or less in adult basic education, adult secondary education, vocational skills, or general studies. We're saying it's a general certificate because you had this many credit hours, they're connected in content, you get a certificate out of it. And then we also talk about occupational or career and technical certificates. And that is a credit award because you have completed a prescribed amount of credits. Okay. So when you start hearing that, is it a certificate or is it a credential, kind of level setting with where the terminology comes from and understanding that is kind of the first piece we want to get to. Next slide. So looking at our administrative rules over here, we have an idea of what a credential looks like. But if you look at the law for WIOA, it's very different. Their focus on a credential is any industry recognized certification is a credential that it demonstrates an individual's skill or competency in an industry. And according to WIOA, that is a license or an assessment where they take a test. They become a certified nursing assistant. They get a certificate in HVAC or welding. They can get OSHA 10, OSHA 30, whatever those look like, the food sanitation, all of these pieces because they're industry recognized. If you're going to work in hospitality, you probably need to have the food sanitation certification. Many people who have a pathway and they want to go into nursing start with a certified nursing assistant, and then they go into an LPN, and then they go to an RN. And we see that pathway a lot. So we're really talking about very similar things, but they're identified differently by different parts of the law. For what we need to focus on for adult education, it is quite simple. What is the certificate or credential, either or, we use those terms interchangeably, that will allow a student to demonstrate that they actually have competency in this industry? Is that a test that's going to do that? And then if that is, what do you get awarded when you complete the test? You get that certificate or that credential, depending on whether we use Illinois administrative rules to talk about it or whether we use WIOA's definition. The key is there is an assessment of some kind that identifies the student has demonstrated the skills to be able to do that work. The question that we have in the chat, can a general certificate be awarded by a CBO that is an approved private business vocational training, PVS site? That is a very specific question that I'd like you to kind of talk to us because there are very specific rules about private business vocational training sites. There are very specific a set of rules that go over that. But a general certificate, the way to think about this is, does that general certificate get that student a job? They're going to have a general certificate in what? Is it a general certificate in accounting? Is it a general certificate in hospitality? What is that? And is that student going to be able to take that piece of paper, that credential, and take it to an employer and say, because of this, I can demonstrate to you, I know how to do a specific job? Because that's what they're going to have to be able to do with it. So thinking through that, we can probably help you get there with how you're setting your program up. But because PBVSs are a little bit different, let's make sure we have that conversation in more depth. Okay. I can't stress this enough. Don't get lost in the terminology of a credential or a certificate, because as I tried to show, they're the same things. They just call them something differently depending on the audience. Administrative rules, we label them as certificates. The law for WIOA says credential. There's a little bit of a difference between how those operate and how they're defined, but our purpose to be here, we are making sure that our student has an opportunity to move forward. One of the things we don't want to see as a state are certificates of completion. That doesn't give a student any opportunities or advancement in their job, or does not give them a leg up to trying to get a job. It doesn't get them a leg up to going to college. So it's really like more of something that's very tangible that will help them. As you're building these, think about how your bridge program could lead to an ICAPS, a post-secondary education or training. Your bridge program should lead the student. It should connect the dots between where the student is starting and where they want to go. It should connect for them. Bridges to nowhere are not going to help our students. And we see this in some research that we're doing to understand the efficacy of our bridge programming. And while it's early in the review stage of the data, we do recognize that we're getting really good bridge programming, but we do see throughout the state what they're talking about of bridges to nowhere. There's a misalignment between your bridge program and your ICAPS. If you have a bridge programming to get your students to college, by the end of that bridge programming, they should be filling out their application to go to college. They should be filling out their federal financial aid so they can go to college. They should understand the steps of what they have to do to be successful in college, and they should be working on completing their HSE or assessing high enough to get into college. That's the purpose of that bridge. If your bridge is to get a student into a healthcare ICAPS, we're building that terminology, that technology background, so they can be successful in that ICAPS. There's a great comment in here, mentioned that a certificate from a community college is not a recognized credential. So if a student just gets a certificate that says a student completed, again, they've completed a class, they haven't obtained anything, they haven't completed an entire sequence of courses to actually get something out of that. It must be something that's tangible. Certifications of completion are not tangible to get that student into that next step. Next slide. Okay. So the question we had earlier, and I'm going to let Angela talk about some more of this because she's done the heavy lift on getting this work organized, but how you get credit for the work. You guys are hearing from us all the time. Make sure the data is entered. Make sure the data is entered. Make sure the data is entered. The reason we do this is so you can see what's happening. So make sure your classes are marked as bridge classes. That's not for bridge programming. Make sure if you've got an approved bridge, the class is marked as a bridge class. That is critical. Make sure the student at the student level, if they move into an ICAPS, is marked as an ICAPS student. And then make sure you actually, when the student completes the ICAPS, that you go in there and you mark them as completed. So Angela, do you want to share anything here?
But not a huge amount. This link right here and these slides are on the website, so you should be able to go in, get it, copy, paste it, hopefully hyperlink to it if the technology all does what it's supposed to do the right way on the right day. But this takes you to what I created a couple of years ago and called it a DAISI cheat sheet, guidance for entering bridge and ICAPS students correctly. Now, what it does is it's got screenshots in DAISI about what to mark, specifically where to mark courses as bridge courses and students as ICAPS students. But it also then takes on another page, it shows how to check those after the fact. Maybe not after the fact, but so Kathy's in her program, she's plugged in the course, she's got everything going, she's got her students enrolled in Bridges, and that started in October. And in December, she wants to go in and make sure she's got all of the students, all the attendance is showing up, everything is there. It walks her through how to do the course search, how to look up the student, how to make sure that everything is in there, and what to troubleshoot about. Should you have 4? If you don't have 4, you only have 3. Who's missing? If you're only supposed to have 4, but you have 7, who are your extra ones and how did they land there? And so this cheat sheet will plug it we'll walk you through each of those pieces with screenshots from DAISI. When you open it, it's 6 pages long. Don't panic. Most of that is because it is screenshots out of DAISI. It's not wording and paragraphs for 6 pages. It's screenshots with arrows and circles and whatever. So how do you know how you're adding them? How do you add the credential? That's on that. It's also in there. How do you mark the completion of the credential? It's on there on page 2. I've got those on that screen specifically. So there's a great deal of information on this cheat sheet for it. I know there were several things. Sarah, thank you for putting that in the chat. I am not sure if you can Google it as a DAISI cheat sheet or not. That's a good question. I've not tried it because I just go straight to it because I know where it lives. I'm sorry. Since I built it, I know where it lives. But it also is part of the ICAPS Illinois webpage that you're in today getting to sessions. So it's in there, it's in the toolkit, it's in the I believe it's part of the manual. It's multiple, this information is multiple places. Yes, Tara, it's also in the administrative toolkit. And okay.
Angela, I do have a question that somebody asked you, so I want to read that question because I do have to pop off to another meeting. I want to make sure I get this question answered. I have some questions about support classes and its DAISI registration. Do we need to register the support class? No. Is that the information is that the answer you would have given, Angela?
Yes.
Correct. Okay. Woo. Yeah, I checked for the person who does this and she is wonderful. So no, it's the student for ICAPS that is marked as an ICAPS student.
Okay,
when
so
they complete the ICAPS.
I think there's some confusion in here because they're talking about 2 classes. They're talking about the support course and they're talking about what they're calling an ICAPS course. So there is the training component course and there is the support course. The support course is the ICAPS course. That is where your adult ed piece lives, is in that support course. If you have a training component course, that's going to be separate. And so, Lorena, this may be something that you want to reach out to me and we can set up a meeting to walk through exactly what this looks like, how it should look, what it should mean, because depending on where you're at and how you have it structured, what that looks like. And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because that turns into a whole nother 2-hour session. But absolutely, Lorena, definitely reach out to me. I can walk you through it. But there is a difference between the support course and the training component piece. And your pre-test and your post-test are going to be attached to that support course. And that's where your credit hours are going to come in. That's where your credential is going to be attached to. That all gets attached usually with your support course. And again, I don't want to go down too many rabbit holes. But like I said, it's easy to do. Thank you, Jennifer. We have multiple people getting us to the link, so that's great.
Okay. Angela, I'm going to step out because I have to go to my next meeting. I'm presenting in about 4 minutes. Nope. So I'm going to go to that.
The next slide was questions. So
okay, well,
perfect timing.
Do you guys have any questions for me before I head off to the next meeting?
And Kathy, if you need to jump, you can. I will write down questions and get them to you. And we can get them answered, but we can also add them to an FAQ that we have, an ICAPS FAQ. Okay. Sarah and Tara is going to drop that link in there faster than I can explain to you where it is, because I know it's on the ICAPS Illinois website. Thank you, Kathy, for your time. I know you're busy today.
Everyone, the last thing I will say, thank you for guys for pulling this together. We are here to serve our students. We are here to comply with all of our funding requirements. And if we build quality programming, we are going to make the gains that we need to make for our students. So thank you for the work that you're doing. And I get to go show off all the work you guys did last year. So thank you for everything. And I will talk to you later.
Thank you, Kathy. So it looks like Tara just put that FAQ in the link. It's just something that as questions come up as out of ICAPS office hours, these pieces come up, we just add, if we think they're general questions that everybody could benefit from, we put them on the FAQ and you all are welcome. It's just one more resource that you're out there for. All right. I'm going to stop sharing. And I believe I hand it to either Sarah or Amy.
Yeah, perfect transition because you're talking about resources, and Amy and I are going to talk about tons of resources, and we're going to do a rapid review of resources. So I'm going to hand it over to Amy to get us started.
So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being with us today. Not sure you can see me, so I'm just going to keep going. Just a couple of things. Wanted to let you know that we have tons of resources for you. So as we look through these sessions, as you're looking at building your ICAPS program, innovating your ICAPS program, the Transitions Academy, as Angela said, which you launched us this morning, is really a year-long event. So not only do we have tools to help you along the way, but we also have a plethora of supports. We have office hours, we have sessions for you, we have all kinds of fun stuff. So we'll go through the checklist here. We have the ICAPS website, which we're going to give you a little tour of very quickly today. We have a manual, which is also available on our website. And so, or if you come to the cohort convos, we might have a copy for you. So just a little incentive there. We have learning communities for Bridges and for ICAPS. So depending on where you are in the continuum, we have a event for you. We have office hours where you can come and ask questions. Those are times designed just for you to be able to come and ask questions. If you're like, you know what, I'd like to hear from somebody besides the state, like, is there somebody in the field who can really tell me how boots on the ground work? We have mentors for you. So that's fantastic as well. And then we also assist in the development, implementation, scaling of Bridge and ICAPS programming. So SIPDC, ICSPS, and ICCB all work very closely together to support the development of ICAPS programming across the state. And so we're going to tell you a little bit more about those resources in the next few minutes. This is what our ICAPS website looks like. And I think Sarah's going to take us there and show us around a little bit. So a couple things I want to point out, and we're going to tag team this because Sarah and I are used to tag teaming together. If you look at the top there, there's that ICAPS approval form. So if you're wanting to get your ICAPS approved, right there, click that and go into that. The ICAPS toolkit, we're going to go into a little bit in just a second. I'm going to show you the lay of the land and I'll let Sarah dive in. And then that manual that I just mentioned, fantastic manual, great resources on there for you to really look at and see what it takes to develop ICAPS programming. On the next little row there, we have the overview of Bridge and ICAPS. We have a video that walks through what is the difference between a Bridge and an ICAPS program. You'll have that question when you're working with your workforce development partners. Well, what's the difference? We have a video, summarizes it very nicely. Brittany and Tara did that for us, I believe, just a couple of years ago. We have learning communities. So you'll be able to go click. Those are wonderful. Click and go. You can register, put them on your calendar. And then we have a nice cadence for those that we'll talk about in a little bit. As you know, because you're here today, everything for the Transitions Academy, as in the fall convening and the cohort convos, is right there. And then in addition to that, we have videos. So if you want to hear from voices from the system or what is happening, we have some great videos for you. If you're coming into the ICAPS program and you're like, you know what, I'm a teacher or I'm a navigator or I'm an administrator, what's on this site for me? If you go below that picture right there, you'll see you can come in by your designation, by your occupation, or however you want to classify that, or your classification. So if you're an administrator and wants things designed specifically for administrators, click that link and run there. So with that, Sarah, I'm going to hand the floor over to you. And I know there's a couple of these you want to dive a little deeper into.
You know, Amy, I think because it's 1:10, we're going to move on.
We have 5 full minutes.
Yeah,
Gettysburg Address was 6. We got a lot to say.
I will just say in that ICAPS toolkit, I'm going to do this real quickly because Angela talked about it. If you click there and it comes up, here's the video, the difference between ICAPS and a bridge that Amy just talked about. And in the planning resources, not too far down, is that DAISI cheat sheet that Angela talked about. It's also, there's a couple of places you can get to the ICAPS manual. Here's one, there was one on the front page, syllabus resources, ICAPS standard operating procedures. I mean, the list just goes on and on. We could spend a lot of time talking about this, and we're not going to, because we're going to show you some other things that are happening right now. And so I'm going to go on to the next page for you, Amy.
Excellent. We've kind of talked about this a little bit, the definitions, federal legislation. I'm not going to read all those to you. Pretty much anything you need to know about ICAPS is on that site. But in addition to this fantastic site that we've developed for you, we also, you can pick up the phone. You can give Sarah a call. You can give me a call. Call Brittany. Call Angela. Call Tara. And we are all here to support you and answer your questions. So we have models regarding collaborative teaching. We have models regarding braided funding. We have all kinds of great tips for navigators. Just let us know how we can help you. And we are not only a resource, but there's also this fantastic website, which, by the way, not to toot our own horn, is kind of getting national attention for the great work we've done for ICAPS. So we're all doing a really great job in Illinois, and that means you as well. So thank you for all your hard work.
Can I just confirm that we've gone back to the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, right, just making sure. Okay, so we just have a few minutes. Let me just reiterate some of the things that Amy's already told you about. And I'm going to say it one more time, that this is just the kickoff. The fall convening is just the beginning of the Transitions Academy. Angela said it, Amy said it, and let me say it as well. You have resources and support for the entire year. So we've already showed you the ICAPS website, the ICAPS manual. Amy's already mentioned the ICAPS learning communities. The ICAPS virtual learning community starts in January. It's the second Thursday of the month at 2 o'clock. The Bridge virtual learning committee is the next week, the third Thursday of the month at 2 o'clock, starting in January as well. And we know you know how to get to the ICAPS website because you did that to get here today. There's a whole section on learning communities that Amy just showed you. On there, you can have the links to register for all of these. It's an ongoing list of registrations. The topics are sort of set. And those topics came from the field, came from suggestions that were made, and then also suggestions from ICCB. As you're seeing today, a lot of the great work that's being done in the field is what we're spotlighting. That's what we're spotlighting in the ICAPS website. That's what we're spotlighting in the virtual learning communities. The reason I said sort of set is we're always listening to you. And if you're telling us, hey, we really need information about fill in the blank, we will pivot and make sure that we get that information for you. A great example of that was the communication and customized communication plan for ICAPS that was developed. That came directly out of our cohort convos last year and was part of our spring event. So just kind of letting you know that's not something that we highlighted, but I believe that's a session that you can go to this afternoon, seeing about how that communication plan is being implemented at local programs. Office hours, ICAPS office hours, that's been mentioned several times. That's where you can pop in and just ask your questions. Of course, you can ask anytime, but it's nice to have a time to come and listen to what other people are talking about. Angela's there. Amy's team and my team support Angela in that, and it's a great time. And that's where those FAQs that Angela mentioned before came from that particular event. And so that is the last Monday of each month from 2 to 3, and there's a registration for that as well. The good news is, if you're like, oh my goodness, this is so much information, how can I get it all in one place? We can help you with that. You can, again, there's a QR code if you want to scan that. That takes you to a major resource page, several pages long, with everything that we've talked about. Tara's also putting it in the chat. So if you want to go there, that gives you registrations, those learning communities, registrations to the office hours, a link to the website, link to the manual, all of those things. So those are all together. And then lastly, let me just wrap it up because it's 1:15. We're ready and here to support you. There's tons of people to support you. And there's Amy's email address and my email address. A lot of you already know our team, the fabulous work that they do. And so feel free to reach out to any of us at any point. And with that, I will let you know that we're going to give you another good break so you can go take care of a little bit of work and come back in 30 minutes at 1:45 for the second breakout session. There are several options for you. I don't know. Hopefully you all got to a session this morning. The one I was in was awesome, and it was full of fantastic examples of the great work that's being done out in the field. So we thank you to everybody for attending, for the work that you're doing, and we'll see you at 1:45 at the next session.